Welcome to another edition of Badger Blitz TV, your Rivals.com destination for all things Wisconsin athletics. From the recruiting trail to inside Camp Randall Stadium to on the court at the Kohl Center, I'm Matt Perkins, joined once again by Rivals.com national analyst Clint Cosgrove. Clint, where are you coming to us from this week?
I actually went on a vacation this week. I was in Sayulita, Mexico, and we were supposed to fly out yesterday. But there's so Sayulita, you land in Puerto Vallarta, and then you take a cab ride to a little surf town about an hour and a half away. Well, there was a mudslide on that on the one road that you can go through the jungle yesterday, so we missed our flight and had some Marriott points to use. So we stayed another day. Now, I mean, I'm working when I'm here now, but, at least I'm here and I'll be back soon. But
there are worse places to have to work from. There's definitely worse places to have to work from. So, all right, well, let's get right into it. Tough week for Badgers, going 0 for 3 recently on their big 3 commits that they were looking for. Khalil Tate, who we've talked about, Tackett Curtis, who ended up choosing USC, and now Joe Crocker. He decided he was going to get by with a little help from his friends in Starkville and not Madison. We've talked Midwest safeties. We've talked Midwest edge prospects. The under the radar type of guys that Wisconsin always seems to go for, always seems to end up with, who turn into, let's face it, a lot of times these guys turn into just as productive as a lot of these 4-stars. So, the question that's come to Clint, got to turn our attention to these overlooked offensive linemen now that Joe Crocker is not in the mix. What the people want. So who are some guys that the Badger faithful can start to, maybe turn their eyes towards as the fall comes near?
Yeah. I've got a few guys. The one thing that I want to say with this stuff, I mean, some of these, higher profile prospects, they're going to stick with their commitments or they're going to flip to even bigger schools. But this is an unprecedented amount of guys who have committed early. Signing day is not till December. A lot of these guys have not been to game days at the place they've committed to. We know what a Wisconsin game day can do. So I wouldn't say it's over for all of these prospects. But at the same time, you do need to look at some plan Bs. And sometimes plan Bs can be plan A. And they can turn out just as good as, the players that you targeted, like you said, at the top of your list. First guy that comes to mind is Aaron Bradley out of Southfield High School in Michigan. Last time I saw him was at the Under Armour camp where were we? I think it was Columbus, Ohio. Very impressive. Big kid, 6'5". I think we have him listed as like 265 on the site, but I'm pretty sure he's bigger than that. I just don't have a verified weight to update it. But the kid can play. I mean, lateral movement. He's got a good punch. He's athletic. I don't know if he has the killer instinct because he's just so nice. He's like the nicest kid you've ever talked to. So I don't know if that turns people off to him. His only offers are Louisville and Minnesota. But to me, he is a 10-plus Power 5 offer kid. And he's, if you turn on the film, the film's good. I liked him even better in person.
Yeah, like Clint, you told me to, take a quick look at him, and I did right before we started recording. And you say he's like the nicest kid. He does not play like it on the field. That's for sure. No. He's got a nasty streak in him.
Yeah, he's like a killer out there. It's crazy.
I kind of like that dichotomy, though. I kind of like it when you've got the guy who's just like super soft smoking or nerdy or whatever, and then goes on the field and just becomes a completely different dude, like Superman, going into the phone booth and all of a sudden turning from Clark Kent into Superman.
Yeah, and you would never expect it. I talked to him after the Under Armour camp and like interviewing him. He's like, I like Louisville. I like Minnesota, and those are his 2 offers. And I'm just shocked he doesn't have more. I haven't done a deep dive like I did when I was scouting where, I go and grab the transcripts. I talk to the coaches and teachers at the high school and all that stuff. But, he's definitely not a characteristic kid. He seems like like I said, the nicest kid you're going to find. He seemed extremely intelligent, so I'm sure grades aren't a problem. So his recruitment kind of, it puzzles me because I think he's a very, very good player. I think he can play in the Big Ten, and he is a guy that I would at least do some deep digging into if I'm Wisconsin, especially just, with the state of affairs right now. Other one, Grant Chapman. Did you watch him before we came
Yeah,
on?
I had a chance to take a look at him really quick. Me, he's a he's a big kid. I think that he's a little slow in the feet at times, but I feel like he has the raw athleticism and maybe just hasn't spent a ton of time playing football. That's just from like a quick glance at him. That's what that's what my eyes told me. But you're the veteran around these parts. I need you to tell me what you see.
What I see is, well, there's a couple things, a couple ways to look at this. One, he's in Minnesota. He does have Power Five offers, but Minnesota, they've had the chance to see him do a deep dive, and not saying that every school hits 100%, but I also do trust that staff's evaluations. They've done a very good job. So that makes me question a little, but he does have Power Five offers. I also respect the job that Iowa State does at evaluating and identifying. I agree with what you say with the heavy foot, the slow feet. But the thing with him, and without having seen him in person, I don't think the thing with him is it a matter of he can't do it or he just hasn't done it? And you see him flash. Like there's times where you see him, the feet are moving and he's getting after people. And then there's other times where it's like his feet just freeze. He stops. He's lunging. He's a waist bender. But you see flashes of what he's capable of. And it's 6'6", 285. That's the ideal frame. And so if you can coach him up, get a couple of years of development in him, get him in that weight program with that frame, I think he can be a very good player. But like I said, is it that he can't do it, or is it that he hasn't done it yet? And I think we see flashes of it. Now, can we get him to do it consistently is the big question. Is it slow feet, or is it just a lack of, he hasn't learned to play the game full speed? He panics when he gets speed rush. So there's a lot of variables when it comes to those things. But when you look at the board and you look what's available in the Midwest, as far as uncommitted kids, unless, you want to go and poach, the MAC kids and that sort of thing. He's a guy I take a look at. I at least take a serious look at. And, the last one, we talked about this is Austin Barrett. His brother's on the Wisconsin roster right now. I'd imagine if Wisconsin went all in on him, he might be all in on Wisconsin. My first experience evaluating Austin, and keep in mind, I've evaluated his brother in person since he was about a sophomore, freshman in high school, was during the COVID year, the opening. They did like a very limited event. It was mostly drills. They couldn't do a lot of one-on-ones. Kids were wearing masks. But I was so impressed with him back then. And, drill work is a lot different than putting it together on the football field. But I was very impressed with what I saw from him. He had great feet. He already had great size. I thought that at that point in his career, he was farther along than his brother. I thought that he had the chance to be a national recruit. And sometimes when you expect so much from somebody, when they don't live up to necessarily, when you don't see it on film, not that he hasn't lived up to it. He's a heck of a football player, great kid. But when you've expected so much and then you just don't necessarily see that 5-star talent on film, which I really thought he might develop into, you question it a little bit. He still has plenty of time. He's got another season, obviously. But the kid's got the frame. He's got the athleticism. He's got the want to. He has the ability. I just need to see him put it together on the field. I think he's a kid that with a very close look by Wisconsin. And if I'm Wisconsin, I'm keeping a close eye on him. If I can get him up for an in-person evaluation, a one-on-one workout, he's definitely a kid I'm doing that for, because although the film is good, like I said, it's not, 5-star killer film. But when you get him in that in-person setting and get him to do the drill work and see what he's able to do, transition laterally with, little wasted movement, work his hands and his feet together, good frame and all that, he gives you something to think about, and he does impress in areas. So I'm a fan of Austin. I'm going to need to do a deeper dive on him this season because I want to see it on the field. But he is another guy that I would take a close look at.
Yeah, and one of the things that you and I have talked about before is, looking at those first 3 games of their senior season, right, and going back and reevaluating off of that new tape after, after 3 games or so, and that's when we'll start to see guys getting new offers, from this staff. But one of the questions that we got in the den this week was from Bucky and Charlotte, and they want to know, in regards to recruiting, what Wisconsin's strengths are and what sort of their area improvements are. For me, like, the first thing that comes to mind, right, when it comes to Wisconsin and recruiting, you're talking about strength, you're talking about family culture, right? Every single guy that I've met and interviewed on the podcast, every single person to a man has said they came to Wisconsin because of the culture, the family culture. And while I know that particular, atmosphere may not be for everyone, it is one of their big selling points. From what you've heard from kids out there, what are, some of those selling points, the strengths for Wisconsin, and then what are some areas that they, could improve on?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to not be biased with this question, just because I experienced the program, whether it be growing up around it, whether it be my time spent with the team. But I also know that times change. The staff's different now. Coach Alvey isn't the coach, but I do feel like there is a culture established, like you said, at Wisconsin, where there is a family atmosphere. And, it's not one of those programs where everybody's, coming in like a peacock, trying to show all their feathers and look at me. It is a place where you come to be a team and a family and to win games. And a lot of guys come to Wisconsin with a chip on their shoulders. They come saying, you know what, I'm better than I was ranked. I'm better than those stars. I'm better than the kids.
I think they recruit that, frankly. I think they look for that in kids. I think they target that.
No question. And with that comes a toughness. It comes a willing to put your physical health on the line to prove a point, to be a player, to be part of something special. So I think you hit the nail on the head. Yes, the family, the culture, obviously the coaching staff, the resumes speak for themselves. Game day experience. I think that is a big thing. Now it's hard to get kids to Wisconsin if they're not close to Wisconsin, but I think you separate yourself on game day. Anybody who's been to Camp Randall, and maybe it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse here, but night game at Camp Randall will rival anything. I'll put it up there with some of the best SEC schools that I've been to games at. I'm not going to say it's better than a night game at Alabama, Texas A&M, or LSU, but you know what? You get a similar atmosphere at Camp Randall. And so I think that's another way that they separate themselves. Strength program, winning. They win ball games. It's a developmental program, and guys who care about developing and being coached, and not just about the clout, not just about being seen and NIL money. They're thinking of that 30-year plan. You talk about the academics. I think that's a big selling point. I think those are all very positive things for Wisconsin. Getting them on campus is a huge thing because in order to sell each one of those things that we have just talked about, you have to be around the program, you have to be around the players, and you have to be around the coaches. Those are hard things to just give through a virtual visit or just seeing it on TV. So those are big strengths. At the same time, I think the strength of Wisconsin degree can also be underrated. People think, well, if I'm going to go to a team that can, compete for a Big Ten championship and, Northwestern, they think Northwestern is the big academic school, but Wisconsin's a great academic school. So I think that can be understated as well. So that can be a gift and a curse. If the kid's making their decision based off academics, they might choose a Northwestern over a Wisconsin. But as we know, the Wisconsin degree holds a lot of weight, especially in the professional world. The other thing is, and this is most schools, lack of national championships. They're right there. They're right on the cusp of it. You go to the Big Ten championship. If you win that, you give yourself a spot. So they're right there, but they haven't done it. And so I think a playoff appearance would really make a big difference. I mean, you look at what Cincinnati has done just by going to the playoffs this past year. Their recruiting has gone through the roof. And, Wisconsin's a more established program than Cincinnati by far. They've won a lot more games over the years. They've been in a power conference for many years. But that playoff, just that exposure, that really changes the perception in kids' minds. I guess the flash. But Wisconsin's not built on flash. If Wisconsin went after all 5-star players and they were all about the flash, I don't think Wisconsin would be as good as they have been. I think they identify the right guys. They identify program guys. They identify guys who love football. They want to represent Wisconsin. As we know, some of the best players in Wisconsin history are walk-ons from in-state because they have so much pride in walking on that field, and they are willing to give it all to win for that W, for their college, and a lot of it has to do with pride. So, flash and you can't win everything, but there's a lot to like. I do see, without it being a national brand name necessarily in Notre Dame and USC, even though Wisconsin's been a lot more productive than, some of these schools in recent years. But those are the things that you battle when you're trying to become a national power. And Wisconsin has the ability to do it. But, it takes time. And I really think it takes that one statement year where you're in the playoff, now that we do have a playoff. And then you get that recognition that, this is one of the big boys, even though Wisconsin's been a big boy for many years, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, listen, Clint, as always, we appreciate all of your insights that you bring us from, well, let's face it, wherever you are on the globe. We'll be back next week with more insights, more recruiting talk. Maybe Clint will be back in Chicago, or maybe he'll be in Argentina. You never know. So until next time, he's Clint Cosgrove at @rivals_Clint on all the social medias. I'm Matt Perkins at _Perko_ on Twitter. And we will see you next time here on Badger Blitz TV. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review. Check out the Badgers Den over at badgerblitz.com. And we will see you next time.